deceiving of your time as you create time to exist. Are you all alive?
Yes.
How are you all this evening of your time?
Great.
Thank you. In this way, we'll begin this evening of your time with the idea that in your society, as you are going through many of the transformations that are taking place now upon your planet, you change the different methodologies, the different modes of operation that you find yourselves exploring. All these different modes of operation are all part and parcel of the idea of discovering yourself to be who you know yourselves to be. In this way, therefore, simply recognize that many times when you go through different modalities, when you change from one methodology to another in this way, simply because of the way you are used to reacting in your society, many times you will negate or judge or cancel the idea or call it negative as to the idea you have previously been involved in. Now that you are involved in something else, many times you will tend to discount the idea that you have already been previously involved in, thinking that it now, in this way, is, as you say, no good, and that what you are doing now is better than what you were doing then. But recognize in this way, many times, the idea is that every single step you have ever taken, every single stepping stone has gotten you to where you are. Thus, in this way, you will find that it is just as much of a break in your momentum, just as much of a stoppage of the flow of your continuity, to discount and judge and negate anything you have ever done as it is to discount anything that you could ever do. In this way, the entire idea, the entire path that you are, will, in this way, remain unbroken and constantly flowing to you and through you if you are willing to recognize that anything that could come to you is a part of the path you chose to be, and anything you have ever done is a part of the path you chose to be. For everything you have ever done has brought you to where you are now, and therefore has served you in a positive way. There is no need to judge that certain things that you used to do are invalid compared to the things you are doing now, simply because the things you used to do brought you to what you are now at this point. Thus, the more you are willing to understand every single event in your life, every single experience, every single interaction, every single situation that you have interacted with as a part of the path you chose to be, in your so-called past and in your so-called future, that is when you will allow yourself to fully experience your reality in the present moment, and in this way you will allow every experience to be a consciously recognizable part of the path you chose to be, and you will feel yourself to be one unbroken, whole, continuous idea in every given now moment that you create to exist. Therefore, when you find that at some point in your life a certain source of information has meaning for you, and then you simply find that the idea no longer has meaning, this does not mean that it is an opportunity necessarily to invalidate that source of information, for at the time it did serve you, and at the time that is the level you were on, and you did benefit from it. If only to recognize perhaps that the information that was coming to you may not represent the reality you know to be true for you, that does not mean it is not valid, for it was an opportunity to recognize what is true for you based upon allowing yourself the opportunity to see what is not true for you. Now, the distinction in terms of your outlook within these situations will determine how consciously aware you are of all the other experiences that come into your life. For to determine that something in your past has been invalid is to open up a higher degree of probability that something coming in from the future will also be looked at as not valid. Anytime you invalidate any portion of yourself, which includes all the experiences you have ever had, you invalidate the total idea of yourself, and therefore do not let yourself be able to perceive that the ideas that are coming to you, the experiences and situations that are coming to you from the so-called future, are a part of your path. Many times you may become the idea of suspicious because of things that have happened in the past, and not allow yourself to trust that they were a part of your path, and therefore not allow yourself to trust that some things coming into your life from the future will in this way also always be a part of your path. You may become suspicious that they could be interruptions in your path, which they cannot be unless you judge that they can. In this way, therefore, simply recognize that if you find that something is no longer true for you, then simply take it as a recognition that you have changed, or that the source of information has changed. But if it has changed, if you have changed, this is simply another opportunity to recognize what it is that is now true for you, what you have become. All you need to do, once again, is allow yourself to recognize that everything that has ever happened in your life or will ever happen in your lives is a part of the path you chose to be. Having that outlook and having that perspective and having that point of view and having that attitude is what will allow you to understand all the situations that come into your life, because you will be willing to accept them as a part of the path, and thus you will replace your suspicion with fascination, with curiosity, with imagination, and with excitement. And those faculties are what will allow you clear, clairvoyant, and conscious recognition of exactly what those situations do serve you in your life, how they fit into the path you chose to be, and allow your lives to become very transparent and a work of ease of creation, rather than a struggle and a strife to achieve. You follow me?
Yes.
All right. 'Tis very simple. You always attach yourself firmly to the thing you judge. The idea is that you chose this reality in which to exist. Do you follow that? In choosing this reality in which to exist, you did so for your own reasons, your own purposes, and you allowed yourself the opportunity to simply recognize, therefore, that if you know that the life you have chosen to live is for your own reasons, then you can simply take it for granted and trust that every single thing you will encounter in this life must be a part of the path you chose to be. For the universe does not do pointless and extraneous things. You can judge that it does, and it is only the judgment that something is superfluous that creates the effect of the seeming superfluousness. But every situation is fundamentally neutral. No situation has built-in meaning. They are all blank, neutral circumstances. You supply the meaning to any situation. In supplying your meaning, positive and or negative, to any given blank, neutral situation, you then, by the choice of that outlook, by the choice of that perspective and attitude, determine what effect you will reap from that situation. Because positive outlook in, positive effect out. Negative outlook in, negative effect out. But it is only your judgment of a situation as something that you do not think belongs in your life that allows you to have the experience as if that situation did not belong in your life. Only the judgment that causes the effect. There are no interruptions in your life. You are complete and whole as a creator, and everything, every idea you are, comes complete with all the ingredients and situations necessary for the manifestation and continuance of that idea in your reality. Thus, when you are willing to understand that everything you experience, every situation you attract in your life is a part of your path, and therefore can be looked at with excitement, here is another part of me to discover, to add to the life that I am, and live the path I chose to be, then that is how that situation will affect your life, and you will be able to see how it fits in. Does that clarify the idea?
Yes.
Thank you. Sharing!
Bashar?
Yes!
I wanted to ask you about the...
Yes.
Can't find the one on the... what is it?
And reason.
Yeah, I cannot find that.
Then perhaps you simply do not need it.
Oh. Okay.
Understand once again, if any idea you are being needs a tool, in order for you to be that idea, the tool is automatically, synchronistically there. If it isn't, you don't need it.
Right. Well, I read that book.
And
The thing that I got from it were the eyes.
Yes. We have discussed this idea.
Right.
By the way, how are your trips?
Very changing. It's been very changing. Very interesting. I've been in contact with a serious connection.
All right. Perhaps to function as a modulator in your extraction of the information you seek from the idea of your future nodal point.
Yes. I was on the spaceship, and I got vague. It seemed like there were several of them.
Serious energy will usually come across like that because it is, in a sense, a collector of consciousness.
Okay, all right, because that's what I got. And then they said to go ahead and get a drawing pad, because then the information for sketches and all that would come forth. So I did that, and that's very interesting.
All right.
And then just the other day, there was I was writing, automatic writing, with the serious connection, and I felt that it was a he, but he said that he doesn't have a name.
They do not, no.
No, but he said it's a signature vibration,
Okay.
which is OHH, but has no verbal sound
All
or
right.
meaning in our
All right.
language. And then he showed me, he said he was not a he, that it was a combination of male-female
Nice.
blended.
They are very blended in that 6th density level.
Right. And so then he showed me my signature vibration, that going on a body, that I'm known as or identified as.
All right.
That looked to me like a flower with an L, a big L that I felt looked like a flower and then meant love.
All right. 'Tis your symbolic interpretation of the vibration so you can understand it in consciousness terms.
Right. And the feeling was that they would assist me, and Gary's assisting me in going out of body into some of the future
Ace.
information.
Ace.
So it's very exciting.
Thank you. Sure.
Bashar,
Ace.
what is the unifying force in the universe?
Consciousness. And it is not so much a force as it is the fabric of existence itself. When your scientists include consciousness in their equations, they will understand the unified field that they seek.
Again, I did not get that.
Unifying the entirety of creation is one thing, is one consciousness, manifesting in multidimensional simultaneous aspects. Everything is the same one thing. Now, if that is not a unifying force, I do not know what is. It is not so much the idea of a force. It is simply that everything is, in fact, the same one thing, manifesting in an infinite number of multidimensional aspects. That is what unifies everything. Does that clarify the idea to some extent?
I got your answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Sharon.
Bashar,
Yes.
I just wanted to share one other thing, that Gary was over the other day, and I shared with him the idea of going into the future reality,
Ace.
and was very excited about it.
All right.
So that made me feel real good.
All right. Thank you for co-creating that excitement in your reality, so that you can recognize the excitement as a reflection of the path you chose to be, which is what excitement is. That is why you can always trust to follow your excitement, each and every one of you. Excitement is the vibration that represents the path you chose to be. So you can trust it. That if you follow your excitement, you will automatically attract into your lives all the situations necessary to provide whatever you need to be the idea you are excited about being. You all follow?
Yes.
Sure!
Bashar,
You, then you.
I'm trying to.
What?
I am trying to.
Trying. Do you enjoy trying?
Yes.
I do enjoy struggling.
All right.
I'm trying to. Wait a minute. Take it back. Okay. I wish to be able to differentiate between my intuition perhaps subtle forms of analysis or thinking on my mind so I can know what's going on.
You do not know what is going on?
In terms of my being, communicating with myself.
What do you think, if I may ask you, having this differentiation will do for you?
I'm desirous of becoming more in tune with my intuition.
All right.
And knowing when that's speaking to me versus my subtle form of my mind talking to me or thinking in terms of an.
May I ask you another question?
Yes.
If you cannot tell the difference, what difference does it make?
I can't answer that, but I think there is a difference.
All right. In this way, simply recognize many times you may be assuming that there is a difference, and there may not be. There is nothing, quote-unquote, wrong with reason. There is nothing, quote-unquote, limiting about reason when you simply allow it to be when it needs to be. And simply trust that whatever tool from your imagination you do need in any given situation at any given moment will be the tool you will use. If sometimes reason is needed, reason will be there. If your intuition is needed, then that is what you will be drawing from. And if you cannot tell the difference, then why not assume that they are simply blended in a form they need to be blended within that allows you to simply avail yourself of whatever you need at any given moment without the need for such a separation and such a distinction between them. In needing such a separation, you may actually be then requesting the blockage you think you already have, but don't. You follow me?
65%.
You may be asking for a limitation you think you already have, but don't have. You are saying, I am experiencing the idea of my communication with my imagination in a way that I cannot tell when I am reasoning and when I am intuiting. So I want to separate them so I can see them both distinctly, because I feel that not being able to separate them limits me, but you are being contradictory. Having them blended in this way, the way you already have, is the integration. And to wish to see them separated, that is the limitation.
Okay, I get that, but because of being perhaps overly analytical, I would like to be more in tune with my intuition, which is there. But
all right, let me ask you another question.
Yes.
Can you specifically describe what makes you think you are not in touch with your intuition as much as you need to be?
Mostly external feedback.
Such as?
People saying I'm too analytical.
Why do you choose to believe them?
It's information.
So? Just because something is information does not mean you have to choose to believe it. Do you, regardless of what you have been told by someone else, do you truly feel that that is true for you?
At times, I believe so.
At times?
At times.
All right. What about the other times?
I'm not clear about the other times. There's some intuition there, but I'm not clear about it.
Can you understand that there is always exactly the proper amount of intuition there, not just some? You follow me?
Yes, I guess I'm trying to. I wish to be more in touch with the intuition.
All right.
And
what does it feel like to you when you are in touch with your intuition? Do you know what the feeling is?
Kind of a spontaneous feeling.
All right. In other words, you can, at any given moment, as you have just done, call that feeling up. Yes or no?
I'm not sure I can call it up. It just seems...
How did you know how to describe it if you could not call it up?
Well, there was no conscious thought going on that I was able to attach myself to.
So you were functioning from instinct, from intuition.
Possibly.
Possibly. Do you think it would feel another way? Do you think experiencing your intuition has to feel a certain way before you will acknowledge that you are doing it?
I don't know what the rules are.
There aren't any. You create them. Now, does that make it easier?
Yes.
Understand that if you, in any way, shape, and form, can conceive of the idea of, quote-unquote, what it would be like to function from more of your intuition, in the very second you are conceiving of what it would be like, you are actually functioning from that point of view in order to be able to conceive what it would be like. Because you cannot perceive what you do not contain. If you can perceive it, you are, at that moment of the perception, the very idea itself. All you need to do is trust that it is that simple. And that the moment you are conceiving it, you are on the same vibratory frequency as the idea you desire to be. You are suddenly the idea, instantly, the idea itself. All you need to do to see it reflected in your physical reality, to get the feedback you desire, is when you conceive in your imagination of what it is you would like to be, trust that because you have been able to conceive it, you are already it, and all you need to do to see it reflected in your reality is act like you know that that is what you are. Act like it. Then you will be saying that you trust that your ability to even conceive of the idea is the same thing. Your imagination is the same thing. Just as real as physical reality. Just as real. You will recognize that your physical reality is the product of your imagination anyway. And you are simply then choosing what portion or what idea or what form or what definition of your imagination you choose to have the experience of your physical reality as. As soon as you simply act like you know that the ability to conceive of it is making the choice of the reality you prefer, all you need to do is act like that is your reality, and your reality will have no choice but to reflect that to you and attract to you individuals who will say, you know, you seem to be functioning from your intuition lately.
That's the kind of feedback I'd like to hear more of.
Then act like that is true for you already, so that you give them the opportunity to see radiated from you the reality you prefer. Otherwise, they are only going to be attracted to your belief that you do not function from your intuition. And so that is what they are reflecting to you. But when an individual reflects a situation like that to you, that does not mean you are stuck in that situation. Them reflecting that to you, what they see from you, is your opportunity to recognize what reality you are creating, and if you do not prefer it, change it. Know, therefore, that you prefer to function from your intuition and act from that point as if that is the reality that is true for you. Then is when you give them the opportunity to see the reality, the other reality you have chosen. Then you will get the feedback. You follow me?
Thank you.
It is, if I may remind you also, that simple. You follow me?
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you! You!
You just talked about something that you talked about last week, and that is it's that simple. Well,
As with trust.
Okay, well, I did that for about 2 days last week, and then what happened to me is what happens a lot in my life. I operate on a lot of times from feelings of insecurity,
All right.
worry, and fear.
Why?
Well,
Do you enjoy them?
well, obviously I must, but I really don't. It's painful. And,
All right.
Anyways, I don't like those feelings.
All right.
Although, you know, there's
Now recognize that in and of themselves, in a sense, fundamentally, they are not feelings in the sense that they do not represent feelings of fundamental emotions. There is only one fundamental emotion, and that is love. Everything else is a differentiation of or a judgment of your own self-worth. Judgment of the self is what creates worry, guilt, frustration, pain, and all of the things you are describing.
anger.
In a sense, although recognize that in your society, what you are calling anger is actually judgment. True, quote-unquote, anger does not come with a negative feeling. For anger is only the energy of alignment to what you know to be true for you. Let us say there's a situation where you are presented with an idea. When you know, if you recognize that that idea simply has nothing to do with the reality that is true for you, you instantaneously have a energy rush that is an alignment so that you can see what is true for you compared to what you have been offered a choice to believe in. Now, when you judge the idea you have been offered a choice to believe in as something less, worse, or negative compared to what it is you choose to believe in, then you experience the alignment in a negative way, which you call anger. But natural anger does not last any longer than 10 to 15 seconds. Anything longer than that is judgment of the situation that allows you to experience the feeling. When you know that something, and I will act as if every situation in your life is a part of the thing you trust you are doing perfectly, then you will create in your physical reality the positive feedback that is a reflection of your trust that you know what you are doing, and only attract situations that fit in with the path you chose to be. How's that?
Thank you.
Does that assist you?
Yes.
Pleasant dreams. Sharing!
Bashar,
Nice!
I have 6 questions. Is that too many?
6 questions.
And I'm afraid they aren't as
Afraid?
deep.
There is no
as-
such thing as a stupid question. Everything is a sharing. Everything is a gift. Everything is an opportunity for everyone you are interacting with to learn something about themselves by experiencing the gift that you are. Do not judge yourself. Share.
Thank you. Okay, number 1. Are you aware of any civilization on or near the star we call Arcturus?
Guys,
What are they like? Who are they?
to our understanding for now, as they relate to your civilization, they are a collective non-physical consciousness that is involved on many different levels, as many other civilizations are, with the assistance of the transformation of your world, with specific regard to some of the ideas of the new incarnations taking place that you call the children that are being born into your world now. In this way, they are, in a sense, let us say, an emotional framework regulatory energy that allows many of these children now being born upon your planet to, let us say, not forget as much as they would have without that alignment, without that assistance, without that identification.
Just births now, or could it be ones that have occurred?
There are some that have already occurred for a little while of your time, yes.
Mm-hmm. What, like 30 years, 20 years, 10?
Within the 30-year frame, yes.
Is the Ashtar Command part of this group?
Not directly a part of the idea you call Arcturus in this way, but they do represent another level of consciousness that is being of assistance in different ways, although recognize that to some degree our perception of the way many of the individuals upon your planet have interpreted the idea of what you are calling Ashtar Command in many ways may be being created in symbolic terms that are not necessarily, let us say, completely representative of the way the actual consciousness perceives itself to be.
So in other words, what we call the Ashtar Command could be putting in physical terminology the non-physical collective consciousness of Arcturus. Is that right?
There is some connection to that and some connection to your own world as well. And as with any consciousness assisting your civilization now, they are all a part of what we term the association, which is the collective consciousness of all civilizations and levels of consciousness that we interact with.
Mm-hmm. Do the Arcturians have spaceships that appear?
You may perceive them to be such, but that is how your mentality needs to see their energy at this time. Mostly it is simply a projection of consciousness. Although, in a sense, that is what any physical object is.
Yeah, I understand. Number 2.
Oh, that was number 1.
Yeah. When I first came here, I met some people outside who were giving me a sort of capsule explanation of you. And in their explanation, they said that you were Daryl's future self.
In a sense.
This is my question as I wrote it out. Please explain the idea that you are Daryl's future
All
self.
right.
And
One understanding can simply be, as you understand linear time, imagine that the physical channel seated before you dies, leaves this physical plane you call Earth. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
Is born into my civilization as myself having the ability to transcend the idea you call space-time and speak through my own past life.
So back in time,
In a sense.
this is you.
As the only one life, physical life I have had on your world for the purpose of forming the arrangement and the agreement to be of service in the way we are being of service now.
Isn't all individuality eternal, unique, and not united with another?
Yes. And it is also all one. Both are true. Recognize that the unity that you seek upon your planet will be the product of the granting of equality to the infinite diversity within it. So the strengthening of the individuals is paradoxically what creates the strongest single unified mind. Just as you as an individual are composed of many different personality portions, you follow me?
Yes.
If you function most strongly as an individual, it is because you have allowed all the different portions of yourself to be blended in equal strength. You follow me? Thus, each and every one of you as an individual, when you allow yourselves to be equal as individuals, that is when you allow, let us say, the overmind of your civilization to then function as the strongest single identity it can function as. The idea is that you will not lose your individuality, but it will be crystallized.
Enhanced.
Yes.
Now, so just to make sure I understand that, for instance, you have someone who, in this time, right now, believes they are the reincarnation of Moses or some prophet.
All right.
Now, their individuality right now isn't exactly Moses per se, but it is the carrying on the time continuum, so to speak, of Moses' life. You see what am I
In a
saying?
sense, there can be identification energy. There are many different ways to perceive this idea. In their one single reality that they are, recognizing that every single individual is truly, literally, their own complete universe, do you follow me? Then in that individual's universe, what they are saying is just as valid as anything else, and for them, completely true. As it relates to the rest of the agreed upon similarities you agree to share as a mass consciousness, then it is more, let us say, appropriate to refer to it as you already have, as simply an identification with a certain type of energy that may be associated with that consciousness to which you are referring, but is not necessarily literally a representation of a direct reincarnation.
Right. Is there direct reincarnation?
Oh, there is direct reincarnation, yes. But in this way, also recognize that even what you call direct reincarnation is not always completely exactly direct, for you are never exactly the same you.
Fulfillment of his divine purpose set out long ago. Was this citing the awakening for him? That he
It
needed?
was the timing of our agreement, yes.
Okay. Number 4. In these channeling sessions, is there any danger of an uninvited guest coming through Daryl?
Are you inviting them?
No.
Because Darryl is not.
So there is no.
No!
Because I've done reading about other.
Understand, once again, you are your own completely inviolate universe. Anything that occurs in your universe does so because of your beliefs that it can. Thus, in this way, you will find that while we are not necessarily saying that even Darryl is in touch with all of his core beliefs, there is enough understanding to simply know that the level of trust that has already been experienced can continue to be experienced, and there is simply the recognition that without necessarily having to be consciously aware of what all the single beliefs are, there is the inviolate trust that no matter what happens is what needs to happen to be of service to all of you.
Okay. Do you have a language of your own?
Not anymore. Though there are remnant portions of this idea, we are now basically functionally what you would call telepathic.
If so, can you let me know what they sound like, what these portions sound like?
Ha-do. We love you.
So you don't need that anymore.
No. For we have understood that to love every single individual within our society unconditionally allows us to know them implicitly. To love them is to know them.
Is that the eventual communication of our mankind?
As we perceive, this is a high degree of probability. 'Tis your choice, however.
Okay. Are you in Earth space right now?
No.
You're in future time.
As
Are you in your environs, or
Yes.
is that...
in my spacecraft round about my planet.
How far away is that from here?
In your terms of spatial counting, approximately what you call 500 of your light years.
Are you familiar with the planet Coldus?
To some degree.
Are you familiar with the planet Umo?
To some degree. Although we would recognize that not exactly as what you would delineate precisely as a planet in your dimensionality.
Umo?
Yes. To us it is more another type of patterned consciousness that may have a representational idea of a planet, but it is slightly different.
Are you connected in any way with these two? When you say...
Not directly, but through the idea of the interaction that takes place on what you would call higher levels of the association. Our consciousness is always blended with any other consciousness in the same association, even though there may not be specific interaction between the individuals.
Are they the same density as your beings, as yourself, or...
Fundamentally, with variations, yes. Roughly fourth.
And you, in turn, as we are evolving into your own
Oh, yes.
progression.
Of course. Everyone is a learner and a teacher.
Sometimes it seems like more one than the other.
Your choice. But that is why we request the idea not so much of questions, but of sharing.
Mm-hmm.
For when you blend the idea of yourself as a teacher and a learner, then you simply become an equal sharer. All right?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Sharing.
Bashar.
Yay.
Two questions.
All right.
You answered 500 light years.
I
That's precisely the light years of era within the Pleiadian constellation. Are you saying that you're perhaps neighbors laterally, parallel to each other?
Our perception of the counting in this way is that the Pleiadian systems, in your terms, are farther than that.
Okay.
Will you, in your terms, recheck your figures?
Okay. That's what I have in mind now, but I will.
All right.
Next question. Have you any hint, when you are familiar with Umo, apparently, correct?
To some degree.
Some degree. Well, all right. When the Umites were in their craft over Spain, they beheld another craft they did not recognize. A craft that could permeate their identity, permeate their ship, but their technology could not identify the craft or permeate their field. Have you any idea what kind of civilization or craft this might have belonged to from your own experiences?
At this point, we are scanning probabilities. It is not, let us say, within our perceptions, definite but probable, that it might be, representative of one fragment of what you recognize to be the Tao.
Mm-hmm.
It may also have been, in a sense, a piercing from one universal planar reality through what we can only term a quasi-planar reality membrane that does not allow immediate recognition from one universe to another, and so coming through that membrane, in a sense, will not necessarily have allowed an individual on this side of the membrane to perceive from where those consciousnesses originated.
Are you terming membrane in terms of slight dimensional degree differences,
yes,
so that they perceived imperfectly, not enough of a whole picture to...
In a sense, yes. That is the perception at this time we can share. We find there is no name we can associate to that phenomena or that level of consciousness that would make any sense in the translations.
All right. Got a last question?
One moment.
Yes.
Oh. There is to some degree the idea of what you call accuracy with the first of your questions in this way, the 500 light years. But we are simply aware of the idea that the extent of the Pleiadian systems in this way is much more extensive than just that.
Okay.
There is one fragment, however, that is in that sense lateral.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. At one point, I'm talking about Billy Meyer now, when he woke up, because the whole area, including his house, was bathed in a tremendous light, and he walked out, and he was included in that light I don't recall the amount of time that it lasted, but what he saw was a bar of light which eventually showed up in the second volume, the Pleiadian volume. He did not know what civilization this was. Asked the Pleiadians, they did not know, and reported back to him about a year later. This fact as to their identity or what they represented was never divulged. I don't know why not. Can you help on that?
We simply do perceive that whether or not it is immediately attached, there is some degree of correlation between that experience and the one you had related to by the idea of Umo. There are divisions and quasi-planar realities that from time to time will have extensions of their consciousness into your universal membrane. They will usually come along lines that are already attractive to such types of energy, and thus appear before individuals in many different civilizations who are already, by definition, interacting with each other in that way. Thus they simply follow the lines of least resistance as they probe into your universe. We ourselves have not explored these levels.
All right. Are you saying then that there are certain beings or capacities to probe more breadth within the universe and perhaps into another universe?
Oh, yes.
Than others?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
We have encountered a few, but not many. But we know they exist.
Is Andromeda part of that ability? Do they?
They have some degree of that ability within that galactic system, yes, although they also have a high degree of connection to your and our, in a sense, universe. More so than some of the others do. But you may understand that, in a sense, Andromeda does function as a gateway through which some of those other universal consciousnesses also find themselves most easily able to penetrate into this universe. Because Andromeda does, in fact, act as the consciousness hub for what you call the local group of galaxies. You follow me?
Local group of galaxies.
In other words, let us put it this way. As we speak of the idea of an association of civilizations that you are relating to in this galaxy, Andromeda, in a sense, functions as an association of associations.
And this creates reachability and impact?
Oh, yes.
Because of the quality?
In a sense, because of the magnitude, yes.
Okay.
Bashar,
For you! Hey!
on this plane, we appear here in masculine or feminine or positive and negative.
Hey!
Is that indicative of our soul within us?
To some degree. But in this way, you will understand that the soul is not masculine and feminine blended. But in a sense, it is the idea to some degree of polarities which truly only become manifested when they project themselves into a dimension such as yours, that by definition will simply have that perception of a soul, a polarized perception of a soul.
But the soul is both energies.
Yes, but not exactly in the idea that it is a blended form. It is simply one thing. You follow me?
I think so.
In this way, in other words, it is not so much the idea exactly that you have the masculine and feminine energy and they are blended into one soul. It is that they are blended, but when the blending occurs on the soul level, you do not recognize the soul as a blending of masculine and feminine energy, but simply as one thing. You follow me? You do not see the components on that level at all. You do not recognize the soul as a blending of things, you just recognize it as one thing. You do not even see the potential for the soul to separate into polarities. This is only a product of the definition of the reality you have created to be your plane of existence, so to speak.
Bashar.
Does that clarify the idea to some extent? We do realize that some of these terminologies do not translate into your language.
Yes, that does help me understand.
Thank you. Yes!
Bashar. Do spirit guides exist? And
Oh
if
yes,
so,
oh yes, oh yes. You have been one many times, as has all of you.
How can I contact whatever spirit guide might be associated with my universe?
May I ask you a question first?
My pleasure.
Why do you want to contact them?
Curiosity.
All right,
Mostly, actually, knowledge.
all right. May I remind you of something, however?
Yes.
Thank you. A spirit guide, of course, will not live your life for you. You follow me?
Yes.
Therefore, it is very simple. There are many ways to contact your guides in this way. First of all, simply recognize and rely upon the idea you call your imagination. For your imagination is a dimension unto itself that contains all that you are, including the idea of anyone interacting with you. Therefore, in your imagination can be any methodology at all that you find yourself to be comfortable with. For your imagination is the vibration that is specifically tuned to your vibration in physical reality. Therefore, anything it will give you as a method of doing anything you desire to do will work for you. That is why it is your imagination. If it didn't work for you, it would be someone else's imagination. So first and foremost, rely and trust upon your imagination to provide for you a methodology that you feel comfortable and excited about, quote-unquote, invoking. Then simply recognize you are never out of touch with your guides. There is always communication, but recognize that it is a guide's job, in a sense, to be unobtrusive, because they are not about living your life for you, nor giving you the answers they know you want to discover for yourself. They simply lure you to more of yourself, and in the state of being more of yourself, you discover you are your own answers. They do not have to precisely give them to you. You follow me?
Yes.
That is the function of a guide. So, simply in whatever way, shape, and form you find exciting, create a scenario in which you know you are, in fact, talking to your guides. Then all you have to do is listen. And simply trust that whatever it is you get, whether it is a vision, whether it is a feeling, whether it is a thought, simply trust that that is communication. Do not put a judgment upon what it means. Simply trust it is a communication. You do not have to interpret nor analyze it to begin with. Allow yourself into the experience of the communication itself. Then, bit by bit, at whatever rate you are comfortable, you will get the translation that goes along with it. But communication is always being sent to you. All you need to do is relax and listen. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes!
I have a feeling that there's a high probability for some future inventions that I might run into, that material, one of the materials to be used in it would be sand.
Silicon.
Silicon?
Ice.
Okay, now what's the difference between sand and silicon?
Sand blended with oxygen.
Uh-huh.
In this way, silicon is in and of itself the idea of an element. And in this way, you will simply find that the blending of the idea with oxygen in this way will create many of the ideas of silica in that sense that you are used to, one of which is very common in your society that you call glass. But silicon itself as an element in this way does have many glass-like properties. And in this sense, the pure element does have energies that can be extracted by some of the idea of the virtual vacuum technology that we have discussed already.
Oh, okay. Very good. I'll explore that.
All right, it has a specific vibration that will be conducive to interactions with other elements, primarily lithium.
Okay.
Also, perhaps magnesium, cesium, tungsten.
Never heard of cesium.
Look it up. Cesium also has a high degree of affinity for the substance you call quartz.
Oh, okay.
Blended together, they can form forms of energy regulation and patterns of vibrational resonance.
Okay, that was Gary's idea.
Thank you!
Great, thank you.
Sure!
Bashar,
Ace!
is there a difference between guides and these more highly evolved civilizations? Or are they the same?
Depends upon what a particular individual in any one of those civilizations is doing. In a sense, no. If they are willing to be of service, to be of assistance in that way, then they function as guides in the same way that I have chosen to function as a guide, so to speak. You follow me? Now, there is a difference in the sense that many of the guides, or let us say most of the guides, that you find yourselves to be interacting with have a higher degree of association with your particular Earth plane, more so than we do. You follow me? That is the primary difference. In other words, you are all, let us say, more an immediate family of energy. Not that anything else is not included, but by definition, because we are, in a sense to you, alien, we are somewhat, by definition, slightly removed from the immediacy of the intimacy between you and your guides that are attached to the earth energy. You follow me? That is the primary difference.
So when people talk about spirit guides that they're in communication with, say one person talks about their spirit guide and then another person talks about a communication they're having with an extraterrestrial that comes telepathically.
Guys,
is that the same?
it can be, but it does not have to be.
How do you know the difference?
Many times you will not need to know, but when you need to know, you will. The energy can be different. Many times the idea of the energy from a guide will simply seem more familiar, more, in a sense, perhaps, to put it one way colloquially, like yourself. Whereas what you would call extraterrestrial energy may have, let us say, a foreign taste. You follow me?
Yeah, thank you.
In a sense, simply always trust that you yourself are always a part of the interaction, every level of you, and that, in a sense, you are always your own best guide. All right. Thank you. Sure.
Bashar,
Yay.
can you define for me what a prime activator is and what a wanderer is?
Thank you. Now, wanderers can simply be the idea of individuals who are willing to be of service in many different planes of existence at one time or another. So they simply form whatever degree of attachment they need to any particular plane of existence to be of service in the way that they can best be of service. But they maintain a sort of, let us say, loose connection to any one particular plane of existence. A prime activator is simply one who may form a higher degree of association and degree of specificity with whatever it is they are choosing to be of service in, and simply can allow themselves to, let us say, obtain a multitude of experiences in one plane of existence so as to become very, very familiar with that plane of existence and carry a high degree of differentiation and or magnitude of impact within that particular plane, in the service that they provide.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sharon.
Bashar,
Yes.
how do you see the people that we call mentally ill in our society? Are they
They are looking into
following
different
the-
realities that your society has not provided a structure for, and has not provided a means for them to communicate back to you as valid realities. So they disconnect from your society, knowing what they are experiencing is true and just as real as anything in your reality, but they are not given an opportunity to know that it is all right to have those experiences, and so are not allowed to communicate them back into your society as valid experiences, so they disconnect.
They seem to be in so much pain, many of them. Are they in pain?
Some of them, yes. For again, they feel that they are separated from a portion of themselves in that way. They have created themselves to be in a closed feedback loop, and in a sense are cutting themselves off from all that they do instinctively know themselves to be, because they have chosen to project themselves into a type of reality where they are not, let us say, on certain levels, interacting with the society they chose to be born into. They are not being allowed to be of service, although that is changing now in your society. You are beginning to recognize that many of these individuals are simply sensitive to other levels of reality, and you are beginning to understand that if you can teach them in this way, touch them in this way, with your love, with your unconditional love, then you can allow them to reform the connections they have been taught to disconnect, they have been taught to break, and in reforming those connections, you will find them to become quite lucid.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes.
I recently spent some time with somebody in my family who I had to take to a mental hospital and spent a lot of time talking to him.
All right.
And there's a lot of similarity between having thoughts about what was going on to him, hearing voices,
Yes.
feeling delusional, seeing signs.
Yes.
And in my own experience, I felt signs
Yes.
and I heard
Yes.
voices.
Yes. As more and more of you will, as you go further and further into fourth density, because you are expanding your senses to include other levels of consciousness and are becoming sensitized to communication from them. When you allow yourself to know that it is all right to do so, then you will not create a disconnection and ensconce yourself in a closed circuit, as these individuals have done simply because they have never been taught how to let it be all right to receive that information and to let it be all right to integrate that information into your mainstream society.
What if some of the things that are being received seem to me are so absurd?
Absurd.
Well, I can only give example.
Go ahead.
Somebody twitches their nose and it means something to them.
What is so absurd about that?
Well, when it's all added up,
Does that not mean something to you?
it means that they're twitching their nose.
But do not facial expressions carry meaning for you?
Yes.
Well, then in the proper context, the twitching of a nose can carry volumes of information, can it not? In the proper context. You see, in the context that they are perceiving, it simply applies. But it is not the context of your mass agreed upon reality. So the majority of individuals in your society simply don't know how to translate the motion.
Seeing a straw in a garbage can means something.
Yes, because nothing is an accident. Everything is synchronicity. Everything is orchestrated.
Okay.
When you are functioning on the level where you recognize everything as synchronicity, you will recognize the reasons for the interactions of any symbol with any other symbol.
Because of such an abundance of these symbols and such an abundance of this one means this one means this, the person is unable to basically function.
Yes.
Without the help or assistance or the stoppage of his energy flow through medicine. And I don't know if the medicine helps or if it detracts. Because in one hand it stops the energy from moving, on the other hand it
You
provides
do, of
calmness.
course, recognize that this individual chose this reality.
Yeah.
All right. First and foremost, therefore, allow yourself to reinforce that this was the individual's choice. This will automatically radiate to them that you sense that it was their self-empowerment that created this and not a lack of power. You follow me? Allowing them to know that you know it is their self-empowerment that has created this reality is what can assist them in getting back in touch with the idea of that power and allow them to relate to all levels they experience so that they will be able to be automatically regulated in terms of their ability to be of service. Let them know that what they are experiencing can be of service, and then they will know that they are desired, that interaction with them is desirable. They will cease to believe that they are cut off from their society, and then the regulation will be an automatic thing.
How does this regulation become automatic if for years when these things were happening the automatic regulation didn't function?
Allow them in this way to know that the present is not a result of the past. Every moment is a new now moment, and what has gone on before has absolutely nothing to do with what is going on now until and unless an individual chooses to believe that there is a connection. So the automatic regulation can come exactly now. Has nothing to do with the fact that it has not been there in the past.
Will the taking of medicine harm this, hinder this from helping? Because
it depends upon the individual's belief system. As we perceive this particular individual, it will not cause undue harm. For in this way, this is an opportunity for other individuals, such as yourself and the other individuals that are connected to this particular individual, including individuals in what you call the medical establishment upon your planet, to begin to learn that in order to reach this person, it is up to them to meet this person halfway and not expect the person to come all the way back, which is a giving up of what they believe to be true for themselves. Form a compromise, meet them halfway, relax your hold upon the structure of your reality enough to allow portions of their reality to be equally valid to the one you think is the only reality that is true. Meet these individuals halfway, and they will make perfect sense. All right? Use your imagination. Go into the dimension of your imagination. Do not fear that you will become crazy, and you will not create the judgment that will disconnect you from your society. You will learn how to be crazy and still in touch. Thus, when you carry that knowledge with you to meet them halfway, you can share with them how to be crazy and still be in touch. You follow me? It is only fear in the part of the mainstream of your society that you will lose touch with some sort of reality that is the only one fundamental reality you believe to be true that stops you from exploring many other dimensions of yourself because you think you can lose yourself, because you think there is only one fundamental reality against which you measure the validity of all other realities. But every reality is equally valid and equally real. What you are experiencing now as your so-called solid physical reality is a product of your imagination. But you give it solidity because it serves your purpose. But this is a dream. It is no more and no less real than any experience that any individual creates. Thank you.
Sean?
Nice!
Talking about the same subject, how can we deal with a person so-called insane who has been in a mental institution for 30 years and they don't talk? You meet with them and they don't talk. How would you communicate with them, and how do you meet them halfway?
There are still many ways. Now do understand, if any of these individuals you are speaking of has chosen unswervingly to live their lives out in this fashion, then live them out in that fashion they will, and you will not change their mind. However, if you find that you as an individual are attracted to assist these individuals, then it is, as you say in your civilization, a good bet that they are willing to let you in to some degree. Otherwise, they simply would not have attracted your attention. Recognize, therefore, that you can first of all trust if you believe them, quote-unquote, a hard nut to crack. You can simply allow the communication to take place on whatever levels represent, let us say, the least rarefied degree of physicality, which is what you call your dream reality. So first and foremost, simply trust that you can begin to communicate with them in your dreams. This, bit by bit, at whatever rate they are comfortable in handling, at whatever rate you are comfortable in handling, begin to allow you to see in the physical reality a leaking through of the dream conversations you are having, and they will begin to be responsive to you in the physical reality. And thus you will get the feedback that lets you know that your dream conversations are having an effect. Use your imagination and simply trust that if that is something that interests you, then when you are in your dream state out of your body, you can communicate with the soul that they are out of their body and strike up a conversation.
What is it about me as a neutral person still want to communicate with those people?
You wish to be of assistance. You wish to also learn about what the dimensions they experience can do for you and your understanding of yourself. So share. They have something to learn from you, but you also have something to learn from them. It is always a two-way street.
And the time of communication would be essentially dependent on their desire to communicate as much as my desire?
Yes. All we are saying is that, let us say you have a larger frame of opportunities to communicate outside of the physical reality. Because outside of the physical reality, in your dream reality, in your astral state, let us say there does not have to be as rigidly held an idea as is being experienced in the physical state. So you may find that they may be willing to be very communicative in their astral state. But that whatever they are experiencing in their physical state, they wish to continue because they are learning something from it.
In other words, what you're saying is I should encourage the fact that I can communicate with them telepathically and let them be in their state, essentially?
Yes, and listen. Listen for the replies that will come telepathically. Learn, perhaps, to communicate in other forms of language other than physiological. First and foremost, the primary communication that they will receive from you, they will receive on whatever level they need to, will simply be your willingness to simply share with them your unconditional love of them. That they will receive. All right?
They will receive it unconditionally, wherever I am, and just send it to them?
Yes. Allow it on your part to be unconditional. Now, they may choose to have conditions in how they receive it, but receive it they will, on whatever level is necessary to let them know that someone wishes to communicate. That can be the first communication. Unconditional love. That lets them know someone is there. Then they will open at whatever rate is comfortable for them. Simply, in your unconditional love, if it excites you, be standing by to receive whatever communication they are willing to impart. Thank you! May all take a short break. Recognize that the idea of what you call the break in this way for me is the simple and instantaneous drawing inward to the center of myself and then an instantaneous re-emergence for me. No time has passed.
You do not chat with anyone?
From time to time, that can occur. But very often, I will simply go within and re-emerge when it is the timing to begin again.
So you rest, in essence, that way. It's sort of
In a sense.
readiness.
It is the equivalent of the instantaneous reconnection with all the levels of myself that constitutes the idea of all of the sleep that we need.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Sure.
Shar,
Thanks.
can you explain to me how karma works?
It is completely self-imposed, first of all. Karma is your cognition of the continuance of the momentum of an idea that perhaps, in a sense, as you say, was begun in one life and may need to be balanced and or finalized in another life, but it is simply your recognition of the balancing and or, let us say, completion of a particular idea you have decided to be. It is completely self-imposed. It is not judgment. You follow me?
Yeah.
Does that clarify the idea? Do you wish to explore it further?
Yes, I would. Well, it's really hard to do.
It is hard to do without judging.
I mean, I want to get into the subject, but I have to separate my own personal judgments. But I'll go for it anyway.
All right.
If someone does something in one lifetime that they see as being negative or harmful to other people or themselves or something like that, do they have to be reincarnated in another lifetime? And
they do not have to be. But you will simply find that because of the energy associated with the limitations you impose upon yourself in physical reality, you know that it may be the allowance of, let us say, a very quick way. For in this way, the degree of limitation you experience in physical reality will allow you to create those type of balances perhaps more quickly in one sense than you could in a non-physical reality, because of the concentration of effect that takes place in what you call physical reality. You follow me?
Yeah.
So you may decide to do it physically simply because that will be the way, that will be, let us say, most conducive to the very rapid assimilation of the balance, in the same way that you created the imbalance.
But it doesn't have to be that way. In other
No, it
words,
does not have to be.
if I murder somebody in one lifetime, it doesn't mean that I'm going to come back and be murdered in another lifetime.
That has happened many times, but again, it can be manifested in many different ways. Perhaps you will simply be of assistance to someone else who has had the same experience. And your willingness to interact with that individual will then be the balancing you require, for then you are giving yourself the opportunity to see what it is like from the other end of the emotional experience. And perhaps that is what to you will constitute a balance, not so much the actual physiological act of being murdered, though that has happened as well.
Can you give me any information about my past lifetimes and any karmic debts that...
Why do you assume you have these debts? Why do you assume it is a debt in that way, and not a choice?
Okay.
Simply to recognize that your willingness to know that you wish to create a balance of the polarities within you, in and of itself, is the removal of any so-called debts. Because you are now willing to be blended, to be balanced, to trust that the life you are living is the life you chose to live, and simply willing to act and function within service to all that is. The willingness to be of service in that way, and the willingness to experience the life you chose to live, is the balancing of that idea, and the ceasing of the need to be reincarnated again. You follow me?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bashar?
Yes!
Since we're talking about reincarnation, can you see a glimpse to my past life or experiences in any form?
All right, now listen, every single one of you. Many times we can share these ideas with you, but understand, we are not invalidating the exploration of your past lives. But in the present, you can know every single thing you need to know to understand yourself in the present, from the present. You do not necessarily need to go exploring the so-called past connections you have to understand who and what you are in the present. Again, this exploration can be valid, but you will always observe the idea within us that we are reluctant to delineate this idea, since you will understand that the exploration of your past lives is for the purpose of bringing you back to the present anyway. And thus many times we simply will find that while we will explore some of the aspects with you from time to time that you have experienced, we will usually first of all point out to you that the rigidizing and labeling of specifics in past lives will have a tendency to focus you in the past and not in the present where you are. We are not inclined to wish to focus you in the past. So it will be, let us say, very, very, very irregular that we will simply dive into the exploration of a past life. Now, if you, right now, in your present, are willing, within your own imagination, to bring to the surface connections you feel to be there, then perhaps we can explore some of those ideas with you. For then you will be specifically dealing with the portions that you feel are valid. But do understand, you are creating the past from the present. Therefore, the idea of any specific past life, the one that is most valid to you now will be the one that you simply will be creating a connection to from now in order to understand the idea that you are now. So if you are willing to bring up what you feel to be a connection, perhaps we can explore it with you. And from time to time, we can get a sensing of the idea of areas that represent strong energy transformations in your so-called past. Again, we will simply hesitate to label these ideas because that will tend to fix you in a past instead of the present. Now, do you feel that there is any specific reason for why you wish to explore the idea of your past lives?
I am bored, simply bored with the moment.
Bored? Then you are not living in it.
Right. I want to go back to the past, the future, and roam around.
You are missing the point. If you are bored, then you are not in the moment.
I understand that.
All right. But recognize in this way, the idea of seeking to create more excitement somewhere else other than the moment will always continue the creation of boredom in your present life. For you will not be willing to allow yourself to know that the past and the future are in the present. Recognize in this way, you can have a high degree of excitement in the exploration of connections you have had in the past and in the future, but do not forsake the present as not being able to create the same level of excitement as your exploration of the past or the future. Because then you will not be allowing your past and your future to integrate into the present.
Granted, that's exactly what I'm doing. This is exciting for me.
All right. Then to what connections do you find yourself attracted in the past?
I'm not sure.
You are not sure? You have no sensation, no feeling at all about the idea of a past life? No associations, no attractions, no draw? Not even the slightest inkling? Where is your imagination?
Oh, just maybe goes 2,000 years ago, or...
And what happened then for you? What happened then? What is the experience, not the number? What is the experience?
Oh, just another person.
Just another... Oh, that sounds very exciting. Thought you said the idea of the exploration of past lives was more exciting. Where is that excitement you are talking about?
The moment and the past and the future. Combination of all.
Yes.
I was wondering if you could see something beyond what I see myself.
Perhaps, but what purpose does it serve for us to delineate that?
Oh, just to have fun with it.
Oh, fun. All right. Here is some fun. You were, and very strongly so, as with many individuals in your society at this time, what you call a Roman centurion. Very, very proper. As you say in your present colloquial language, by the book. Very steadfast, very loyal, very strong in your loyalty. Highly regarded by your fellow centurions. And respected by the populace, even though they feared you in a sense. But they knew that you were very, very, in a sense, fair, though many times the idea of your fairness was to simply follow the law. Now, whether the law was fair or not, that is another issue. But you were fair in your dispensation of the law, and so you were respected in that way. At least an individual coming under your attention and your jurisdiction would at least know that it was nothing personal. You follow me?
Yes.
Now that is what we can share with you at this time.
That's what I'm experiencing just now. Thank you.
Thank you! Sure!
Bashar?
Aye!
There's a place called Shambhala over the Gobi Desert.
Yes, it is in another dimensional frequency, but yes, it is an existence and a level of consciousness.
Yeah, what is some of their main activity there?
It is more the idea of a collection of consciousness that you would perceive to be somewhat of a regulatory vibration. In a sense, they feel they are sending out caring energy to your planet so as to allow individuals to be drawn to their own inner shining light.
Do I have any connection to this energy?
Well, since you are the one that asked. Again, any vibration you find yourself attracted to, anything that comes into your consciousness can be a reflection of what for you in the moment you have created, that reflection is valid. If it continues to excite you, follow it. If not, do something else. But for the moment you asked it, there was obviously validity in it for you. Now you have integrated whatever you have needed to integrate it out of it. You will continue to do so in whatever way excites you and attracts you.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
This, I have an incredible backache.
A what?
Backache. A disc is out.
A disc
A
is
disc
out.
is slightly out.
All right.
Now, if this is a result of karma, how do I get rid of it?
First of all, recognize you do not get rid of anything. You integrate by accepting everything into you. Now, allow me to ask you a question. May I?
Please.
Thank you. How, if you were to treat this as a neutral situation, neutral, can you, using your imagination, perceive in any way, shape, or form how the situation could positively serve you? What comes into mind? All the different things you can think of through which this can be viewed as a positive opportunity.
To take things slow and easy.
One. What else?
To breathe into the place where it hurts.
Two. What else?
To allow whatever's causing the pain to come out.
By doing what?
Just being open to it.
All right. Being vulnerable is being open to all that is. It is not weakness, it is strength. Being open to all that is being connected to all that is. That is infinite strength. Vulnerability is infinite strength. Now, may I ask you another question? Oh, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to have such a good time. In your imagination, if you felt that you were, in fact, right now, completely and fully aligned and allowing any and all levels of energy to move through you, any and all levels of energy, how would you feel about that? Truly, how would you feel about feeling your own infinite power?
As best I can imagine it,
Hey,
I think it would be wonderful.
why?
Because then I would be totally in touch with my own energy, with everything, with all the energy.
All right. May I ask you another question?
Please.
Oh, thank you very much. In your estimation, in your terms of counting time, when do you think that might occur? Roughly. 10 years from now? Before that? Yes or no, before that? 10 years of your time. Before 10 years?
I would hope it could occur.
Hope implies despair. Now, I am asking you to sense within yourself, when you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you will have experienced enough time to experience that level of integration, would 10 years, in your estimation, be more than enough time?
Yes.
6 years.
Right now.
Oh, you are ready right now? Are you sure?
Yes.
All right. Then stand up. What is it that you feel is the most exciting thing you could be doing in your life?
Anything.
Anything at all. Do you have a preference? Yes, no, maybe.
As long as there's variety.
Oh, there will always be that.
Then there's no preference.
No preference! Why not?
What for?
All right. Then you're saying that at any given moment, anything that you are doing is just fine with you.
Yes.
Anything at all, including the situation with your back.
Back.
Ah.
When it comes to the physical.
Oh, here we go. Every other level is fine as long as it has nothing to do with this level. Am I putting words in your mouth, or are you actually saying something else? Do not let me put words in your mouth. What do you mean to say?
That this backache
Yes.
hurts.
Ah,
I would feel much better if the pain wasn't there.
I see.
It would enable...
Where would you rather the pain was?
Somewhere.
Somewhere.
Out there.
Out there? There is no out there. You are a complete and total universe. There is nothing outside.
Or maybe we can transform the pain
Ah,
into something else.
transform the pain. That is different. Now, pain is usually created because an individual in your society, and some other societies, is not willing to receive a message from another portion of themselves, and so they create a scenario that forces them to look at something, because they are not willing to allow the message to come more easily, because they will not pay attention to it when it comes more easily. In your imagination, what do you imagine that having the pain tells you? What type of message do you think you are sending yourself that you would have to create something like that in order for you to pay attention? Is there a message there that you are willing to allow to come to you in some easier way? Will you accept it if it comes in an easier way?
I would like to accept it.
All right. What do you imagine that the message might be? Just take a wild guess. Say the first thing that comes to you. Do not think about it.
To be more...
It does not have to make sense.
To be more... to get it.
To get it.
To be
Yes,
more receptive.
Receptive.
To what's going on.
What's
More aware.
going on?
More aware.
What is going on? What is it that you think you need to be
I don't
more
know,
aware
but
of?
if I would have been more aware, this pain would not be here.
Not so necessarily. Perhaps the pain is there only because you think you need to be more aware of something that isn't there to be aware of. How does that idea strike you?
I have a hard time with that.
No, all right. Would you like to lie down? How are you doing?
It hurts, but is there a purpose for standing up?
I don't know. You tell me.
I'll
I only made a suggestion. You do not have to do it.
I'll let that down.
All right. in this way. What is it that you feel could be served by allowing yourself to create a situation wherein it stops you from doing certain things? And what are the certain things you find that you cannot do with this situation?
Oh, I can't bend, I can't run, I can't be active.
You cannot be active
in, well, running.
Running.
Physical movement.
May I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
Since you do not have a preference of any particular thing to do, where would you be running to? And why, therefore, do you need to run? When exactly where you are, you have said, is just fine with you.
There are times during the day that I like to take a jog.
Ah.
Stretches out. It helps to move my energy around. It changes the gestalt.
All right.
And I use it as a form of meditation also.
All right.
And right now, because of this, I can't do it.
All right. What has it allowed you to do, however?
Well, I swam today.
Oh. All right. How did that feel?
Not as good as running.
Why not?
Because it doesn't do the same thing.
Why not? What is the difference between those two ideas for you?
Running is a physical, it's a certain motion, it's a certain physical
motion.
Oh!
Are you telling me you actually have a preference?
Yes.
Ah. So it does make a difference to you what you do.
It does.
All right. Then, why not allow yourself to know that you do in fact have preferences? And the idea of being so very spiritual does not mean that you cannot prefer something. It does not mean that you have to be blasé about everything. You follow me? Being spiritual is not necessarily just sitting around going, oh, well, if that happens, that's all right. Well, if that happens, that's all right, too. It is the equalizing of everything in that knowing it is all right, but you as a being are a different being, are a differentiated being by definition than anyone else. Therefore, by definition, you have your preferences. It is all right to have preferences. They are not judgments. Preferences is simply recognizing what is true for you and acting on it. A judgment is the invalidation of what you don't prefer. But you can choose to prefer something without invalidating the equality of what you don't choose. It is all right for you to have preferences. It is all right for you to be more excited about one thing than something else. You do not have to feel that that is a judgment. Excitement is simply the recognition of your preference, of the path you chose to be at any given moment. It is all right to prefer something instead of something else. You follow me? Now, perhaps you will now have a reason to allow yourself to move. Because you will now allow certain ideas to be attracted into your life that are reflective of the preferences you truly do have that you have buried within you. Burying those preferences has simply immobilized you. Because then you are not acting upon anything specific that represents the path you chose to be. You are allowing the reality around you, the physical reality, to blend to the point of non-cognition, of non-differentiation. You are immobilizing your activities. You are an active being as a physical being. Let yourself know that you have preferences and that you can act upon them. And acting upon them is not a judgment of what you do not act upon. It is simply the recognition of what is true for you. Now, you also can avail yourself of the assistance of individuals around you in the giving to you and the sharing of their energy to allow you to heal yourself in this way, for there are many individuals who have allowed themselves to be of service in ways that they are excited about and prefer, and some of that is, in your terms, the manipulation of your physical body. You follow me? So, allow these individuals to assist you, to assist yourself, and allow yourself to realize so that the surge of energy that will travel up and down your spine between the polar opposites of your brain and the base of your spine will then have a reason for being there. Until you allow it to have a reason for being there, you will allow there to be a disconnection because it has no purpose. Create a purpose for it, create a preference, and know that you are excited about acting upon it. Then you will reconnect and plug yourself back into the universe, including the physical one. All right?
Seems that by doing this you create desire back inside of your...
What is wrong with desire?
One becomes attached to it.
Why?
If one is desirous and they want something...
Desire is not covet. Do not confuse the two. Desiring something is not coveting. Desire is emotion, energy, motion. Now, you do not have to put expectation on desire. You do not have to rigidize desire. You do not have to limit it. Simply recognize that desire is your conscious recognition again, much like the idea of excitement. It is much the same energy. It is what you recognize yourself to be. Are you attempting to become egoless? For as long as you are physical, you will always have an ego. Because an ego's job, fundamentally, is to keep you focused into the physical reality you chose to be born into. That is not to say you have to allow negative ego to control your actions, but ego itself is simply your ability to exist as a physical being. It is what keeps you focused in physical reality. There is nothing negative about basic fundamental ego. It is simply a conduit. It keeps you where you have chosen to be focused into, the general physical reality. As long as you are physical in that way, as long as you are a personality construct, you will always have ego. Desire does not have to be expressed in a negative way. Simply do not limit it by imposing upon it a particular way in which the desire has to manifest. Do not make demands of your desire. But desire is emotion, can be love, and can be the cognition of your own excitement and vibratory preference. That is all. You follow me? In this way, you don't have to become attached to things. They do not have to become attached to you. You simply recognize that with your desire, you are allowing yourself to become the dreams that you have. You are living your dreams. Desire is dreaming. It is the giving in to your ecstasy, which is your birthright, which is what you are made of. Shape or form has to be the idea of envy, of jealousy. None of that. That is judgment. Follow. Does that assist you?
Very much.
Pleasant dreams.
I have a question. Many times in my life, I can think of instances where I've had very, very strong, heartfelt desires to do something, to have a certain relationship with someone. And for one reason or another, because I usually act upon what excites me, I did it to see, in the long run, or viewing that situation from the present, now, that it would not have been good for me to have followed that particular thing that excited me. It would not have been
But understand, from the point of view, in a sense, that you are looking from now, there is no way for you to know that. Because you are not in the experience. You are looking at it from a perspective of where you are now, and where you are now doesn't relate to where you were then. So it may seem as if it would not have served you, but it may have been totally different had you simply done it. You follow me?
And how about if you're excited or you feel a very strong desire to get to know someone, let's say, or spend time with someone?
Say hello.
Right. Okay. Well, I have no problem doing that.
But again, allow yourself to make the connection or allow the connection to happen and then simply pay attention to the way the connection does unfold. Do not put demands upon how you think it should. Let the relationship be what it is, not what you think it should be. All right? Thank you.
Bashar.
Are you through?
Here for now.
All right. Yes!
Are you familiar with the planet Reticulum?
Oh, yes.
Do the Reticulans assist other beings in their work regarding this planet?
Yes, of late. Yes.
How? Do you know?
In many different ways. Some of it has been through some interaction with members of your society so that there could be more balancing, more understanding, coming into access, coming into contact with your own inner fears, and thus the assistance by them of you being willing to allow them to assist you in balancing certain of those ideas and polarities within you.
Are they fourth density beings?
In a sense, yes.
Or are they more physical?
Well, fourth density does not mean non-physical. Necessarily.
Do they have their separate activities for their own interests as well?
Oh yes, oh yes. So do we. So does everyone, in a sense.
So they are not android beings of any sort?
There are androids, but their population in general is not, no. They are living, breathing beings, as are you, so to speak. Thank you.
Where,
Guys,
I was going to say, with Reticulum, where are they located?
that is the name you have given to the constellation, Zeta Reticuli.
Oh.
Find it in your charts. Guys!
Would you comment on how, in what way we exemplify the fears of the Soviet people?
In this way, you will find that you are their fears of individuality, and they are your fears of collectivity. That is it, in general. Does that answer your question?
I don't perceive why individuality would be something to be afraid of to them.
That is because you are in the society that thinks that that is the way to live.
Yeah. Okay.
Why do you perceive that the collectivity is fearful to you and your society? From their point of view, the idea of individuality is, in a sense, anarchy. To you, the idea of collectivity in that way is domination.
Right.
But you are the polarities of your world. Find the commonality and blend, and then you will have a society that is a total collective acting together as individuals, synchronistically.
Right, I've got that picture.
Nice. Thank you. Live it, and you will make a difference.
Thanks.
Sure! Nice!
Have you heard about the Peace Child concert that's going to be done here in Los Angeles?
Define.
Where there are like several, like 20 or 30 Soviet children and American children, a Soviet band and stuff like that. They're touring all over
All
Russia
right.
and all over the United
All
States.
right.
And how do you see that
As one method of allowing yourselves to recognize the commonality and equality that you can share. And one step closer to your willingness to know that you can interact as equals, respecting the differences within each other. That respect is what will remove all the negative effects of those differences.
That's the goal of it.
Yes,
Bashar?
it is your reality. Thank you for co-creating it. Yes.
On the subject of international relations, it appears to me that Gorbachev and some other Russians seem to be putting out a lot of peace feelers, and yet there is a lot in our society that wants to put that down. There's always a putting down of that energy, and yet I seem to sense that there is a lot of genuineness about that. Do you really feel your point of view about that?
Yes. Recognize again, you as two nations are simply pirouetting around each other. One takes the initiative, the other takes the defense. One takes the defense and initiative, the other responds likewise. You are simply going back and forth exemplifying the polarities in this way without much of the idea of what you call rationality. But simply in this sense, it is an opportunity for blending at whatever rate you allow yourselves to feel is a comfortable rate. For do recognize once again that you and them, you are your governments. You are your governments. You allow the structures to exist as they exist. Be willing to take responsibility in that sense and know that you do not need the governments to protect you, but allow them to serve you. Then communication will be open. All right. It is up to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
Sure.
Yes.
I'm working with someone who had a cold yesterday.
Yes.
And I was thinking, I guess what came to mind for me was to surround them with green light, healing light.
All right.
But I wanted to know what the effectiveness.
The effectiveness will be, according to the agreement you have made with that individual, to be the one that they attracted to them to do that.
Okay.
It is always two ways. It is up to them to also decide the effectiveness.
Okay, now let's say it's to myself. It's the degree that I believe in that being effective.
But you cannot change someone else.
No, let's say it's myself. I'm the one that's
Yes.
effective. And I envision myself surrounded in green light.
Yes.
Then the degree that it's effective is the degree that I believe it's effective.
Yes. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sure.
Yeah.
One moment. It is also the degree to which you are willing to understand the reason for why you created the scenario in the first place, although that does not necessarily mean you have to be consciously, analytically aware of the reason. But just be willing to take responsibility for the creation. Evolving.
Whether it's myself or somebody else.
For yourself.
Right. Well, my love.
Yes. Thank you. Hey.
Several of your counterparts have been predicting a lot of earthquake activity for us between now and like the end of the year.
We ourselves have also talked about some of that activity. However, one more time, there is no such thing as a prediction of the future. There is only the sensing of the energy that exists that has the highest degree of probable realization at the time the prediction is made. It can change. And many times, the prediction, quote unquote, is the opportunity for you to recognize that you prefer something else and to change it. You follow me?
Yes, I do.
So while there is a high degree of probability in that sense, you will find that there is another possibility within your localized area within the next 48 hours to 72 hours. But again, some of this energy has already been transformed many times by your consciousness, simply by your willingness to understand you can rechannel the energy in different ways, and that you do not necessarily have to believe that you need such a shaking up in order to be awake. That you are already awake and in control of the situation, so things will regulate themselves and fall into place peacefully. You follow me?
Yes, I do.
It is not that the energy is not there. It is simply that it is your opportunity to do with it what you prefer.
Very good.
Thank you.
Bashar,
Yes.
if we cannot predict the future, how can we as you just said, do it.
It is not a prediction of the future. It is a sensing of the energy at the present that has the highest degree of momentum behind it. If that momentum and that level of energy doesn't change, then that sensed situation will become material. But that is not predicting the future. It is predicting what is the most likely reality that has the most degree of energy behind it now, at the time the prediction is made. If that energy changes, then no such prediction comes to pass. You follow me? But you are not reaching into the future to pick up on the idea. You are sensing only the present, because the present is the only reality that actually exists.
Essentially what you're saying, we have no power about what's going to happen.
You are misunderstanding me completely. I am saying you have absolute and utter and complete control over the idea, because everything is right with you right here and now. And you are sensing the energy that has a great deal of momentum behind it. If you do not prefer that idea to have a great deal of momentum behind it, then the sensing of the prediction is your opportunity to change the energy if you don't prefer it. You have all the power in the world to change it. The idea, as your society believes predictions to be, is what takes the power away from you, thinking that you are predicting some so-called future that you cannot avoid, that is out there beyond you somewhere, doing something that is coming closer and closer and closer that you cannot get away from. That is the removal of your power. But knowing that all events are in the present, where you exist, is what gives you the power to change them if you don't prefer them. You follow me?
Well, I hear the contradiction in what you're saying.
You are simply assuming that the future is something that has validity unto itself other than what you give it. The future and the past is an illusion. Everything exists now. And you can change what you manifest in your now moment, based upon what you believe is possible and what you prefer to be the reality.
But for me right now it's an illusion also. Since by the time I say now, it's
the experiences that you are so-called surrounding yourself with to represent the now are an illusion. But the now is not an illusion because you know you exist. You do know you exist, do you not? Maybe. All right. If you are not sure, there is one very quick way to be sure you exist.
Well, essentially, I should not say maybe. I know
Thank
it
you.
It is and it is not. Yes and no.
One more time. One more time. Do you exist or not?
Yes and no.
How can it be no? If it was no, you would not have the ability to say yes and no.
By the time I said yes, I have changed to the no already.
But it is still always now, is it not?
That's the eternal now, yes.
It is always now. Always.
True.
Then you always exist in the now. Always in the now. We are not saying that this now is the same now, and that the last now is the same now that this now is, but it is still now. No matter what type of a now it is still now. Yes?
Therefore it's an illusion since it's changing all the time.
We are not saying the definition of the now doesn't change, but that definition, the illusion of what the now is, doesn't change the fact that now is still now. You follow me?
I see what you're saying. Yes.
All right. Then simply understand, no matter what the definition of the illusion, it is still always being experienced and only ever can be experienced now. Period. So all of the power of all of the illusions, all of the generation of all of the illusions are always with you in whatever now you happen to be in, and are never anywhere else but the now you happen to be in at any given now moment.
There was one disagreement between what you're saying and my concept
All right.
of everything is the fact that I am not in control.
Oh, yes, you are.
While you say I'm in control.
Yes.
That's the big difference between our...
All right. Then, in your reality, if you do not believe you are in control, then in a sense, it is, quote-unquote, pointless. You may simply do whatever you wish to do, but know at the same time that if you are not in control of it, anything at all can happen, and you have no control over it, nor are you responsible, nor do you have anything to do in playing a part in having that in your life. So there is in your life no continuity, no sense, no connection on any level.
Except for one thing, the experience.
But the experience, if you do not control it in that way, cannot be applied to any other level, so you cannot grow. The experience, if you are not in control of your continuity, simply is a random experience that does not relate to any other experience, so you cannot form a collection of experiences that lets you think you are growing.
What do you mean by growing? If I am everything, the whole universe itself, how can I grow?
You can, by having created yourself to be in the illusion of separation, allow yourself to remember more of who you are. That is growing, from your point of view in this physical reality. Now, we understand that there may not be a terminology that, let us say, accurately translates into your language that represents what growing may mean to a being on a level where it does in fact recognize that it is all that is. But that does not mean it is static. It has its own version of the idea of recognizing that even though it is always now, creation is still and always will be unfolding. I recognize that in your language it seems to be a dichotomy, seems to be a contradiction, and seems to be a paradox, but that's the way it is. Okay? That is when you know that when you are experiencing paradox, that is when you know you are standing in the center of yourself. Because paradox is dichotomy that has to come from a common center, because you are at the center of all polarity that you experience. Thank you. You, then you.
How expanded are the entities that are born as children in their society relative to the adults? Like when they first come into society,
there is some acclimatization, some what you would call time in order for them to acclimate to our specific methodology of expression, but generally speaking, by the time that you would call 3 years of age, they are on their own.
Right. As expanded as you are.
In their own way.
In their own unique way.
Whatever definition they have created themselves to be, they are as completely expanded into that definition as anyone else is expanded into their own.
And then it's just a matter of physically maturing a bit?
To some degree, yes. There is that representation in our society to some degree.
And are they fully communicating with the adults telepathically?
Oh, yes.
On birth?
Oh, that is even before birth.
I know. But even when they become physical?
Yes. There is some degree of disorientation, but it does not last very long. Usually no more than what you would call 3 months. But there is still some understanding of the communication, at least where necessary. Before we continue, allow me to also remind you that the idea of existence and the idea of non-existence in your society has taken on a belief system and or a quality that makes you think that existence could possibly become non-existent, but it can't. In this way, recognize that all of existence and all of non-existence are both real right now. One does not become the other. You simply do not have an experience of all of the non-existence that is there, because by definition it doesn't exist. Therefore, you can't have an experience of all of the non-existence that is right alongside all of the existence of which you do have an experience of. One does not become the other. What exists will exist forever. What does not exist will not exist forever. They are already both real. One does not become the other. Continue.
All right, I have something to share, although you threw a curve at me by saying what you just did. Let me go on with the sharing.
All right, by all means.
And then I'll take on the curve.
All right.
You talked about weather, and there's something wonderful that I have experienced along that line that I just would like to tell people.
All right.
I was going through a period of extreme, I can say is within tutorship, and things, ideas were coming out to try to manifest dominion. And what tantalized me one day was to attempt dominion of weather. And this was a period when we were having nothing but storms constantly, rainfalls day after day after day that were creating floods.
Okay.
Okay, and in our area we have a lot of slides. Now, one day I had to go out and do the laundry. We don't have facilities in the house. And I normally left freely, feeling freely, and got into my car and realized that I was driving in a blinding rain. I had no umbrella. I was going to transfer clothes in the mess, and I had to go back and get an umbrella. And instantly, as I had that idea, came the challenge: do you need an umbrella, or are you going to accept the picture of discomfort? Are you going to mean what you want to learn dominion?
I understand.
I said, no, I don't accept this. I want this to disappear. It isn't right. And I forgot about it, and I kept driving and parked the car and got out and got my clothes, and suddenly it wasn't until I was crossing the parking lot that I felt this intense sun burning down on my back. And I looked up, and this was no longer a horrendously overcast and rainy day.
Hey.
The whole dome, the whole sky was blue. There was not a cloud, except all around 360 degrees, little fleecy that looked like mashed potatoes on a plate that comes around your steak, you know, in a platter.
All right.
And I realized suddenly that was the proof. We have the dominion in the moment. For when it's constructive and good for the betterment of something, we simply decree it, and it shall come to pass, like the Bible says.
In this way, what you are doing is simply experiencing yourself and all the situations around you as one event, as synchronicity itself. It is not so much literally, although this does have validity within certain electromagnetic spectrums, it is not so much literally that you are doing something to have dominion over the idea, like the expression of energy from what you would call a wizard. But the idea is that you are always in perfect step, in perfect timing, and it was a recognition that you placed yourself exactly when and where you needed to, and allowed the reality around you to reflect your now realized conscious recognition of your perfectly placed timing. Everything is synchronicity. Thank you for your sharing. Once again, every individual makes a difference. Thank you.
Sure.
You!
Yes. I was wondering if you talked a little bit about the consciousness of animals, or...
They are extensions and reflections of your own consciousness in many ways. In this sense, they are here to guide and assist you through their unconditional love for you, and they are, in this way, once again, primary extensions of what you shall call the oversoul consciousness of your entire civilization. Many times they will take upon themselves ideas and or physiological scenarios so that they can reflect to you the ideas you are exploring without you having to become physiologically incapacitated during the exploration. Also, they will reflect your demeanors and your ideas, your emotional attitudes, your understandings, your symbolic interpretations of the many different levels of consciousness you have created yourselves to be. In this sense, therefore, simply in the general sense of things, to give you an idea by analogy, we will share with you one more time the simple statement in this sense that the animals upon your world are still mostly territorial because you are. In this sense, also recognize, once again, that the idea of animal consciousness extends to almost all expressions of the idea you experience upon your world, with the exception of yourselves in that way, and with the exception of one other race of beings upon your planet, what you call the cetacean, dolphin, and whale. There are to us 2 alien species upon your world. Land human, water human. Or if you wish, water cetacean, land cetacean. But animal consciousness is there to assist, to reflect as a guide. Communicate with them by simply returning the unconditional love and allowing yourself to take responsibility for in this way what they are so lovingly willing to show you. At this time, we will extend to you once again our appreciation for allowing us to experience the gift that you are, individually and collectively, for in the experiencing of the unique facets of all that is that you are. You allow us to expand our awareness of all the different ways that all that is has of manifesting itself within the creation. We thank you for the sharing. Exciting dream lives and life dreams to you. They are all one. We bid you a fond and unconditionally loving good night.